Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is how to recognize our own energy fields. Let me introduce you to our guest as well as our self-growth team. And our guest today is Amy Boland. She's an ex-undercover broadcast journalist as well as a cancer survivor. She's joining us from somewhere from the East Coast.
Oh, actually, it's Deerfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
I wish Florida.
You do get around. So thank you and welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I also would like to introduce to all of our viewers our cast members, beginning with Ninon DeVerde-Rosa. She is joining us from Las Vegas. Welcome to the show, Ninon.
Great to be here. Thank you, Steve.
Fantastic. And also Helen Carrison. She's joining us from our European division, Brussels, Belgium.
Great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
Welcome to the show. And Jamie Lerner, she is joining us from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. So in the first half hour of the show, we are going to explore and have a dialogue about what gets in the way of recognizing our own energy fields, and what are the problems and issues that may cause in our lives. And in the second half, we will explore, again in a dialogue, some of the tools and some of the modalities that our cast members or our guests have used in the past, either for themselves or for any of their clients, to assist people how to recognize their own energy fields. So my first question is to our guest, Amy. Amy, let's explain to our viewers a little bit about what is this energy field that we're talking about in our theme.
Sure. Thank you, Steve, and thanks for having me. Energy fields are the vibrations that we feel around us, actually, when we are in a fearful situation, or if we're in a situation that just doesn't always feel right as a norm. And it has a little bit of more of an electric feeling to it, if you will, where you can't really feel it. It's not tangible, but yet it exists.
Does everybody on the planet feels this? I
believe at various times everybody on the planet does feel this. I just don't think they really know what they're feeling.
Okay, so what would be some of the reasons or some of the causes, actually, if we are not tuned into ourselves? Because I think this probably requires for people to be kind of tuned into themselves. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
correct.
so if we are not tuned into ourselves, and I think there's a high potential that we're going to miss this signal, correct?
Absolutely.
So in that case, if that's how we're living our lives, how does that show up in our lives? Like, what is it going to cost us?
That's a great question, because it could cost you your life if you're not really tuned in my opinion. And I'll just share my own experience as to how I recognized that there was this energy field around me, although I always knew it. I think it's something we know in the back of our minds, but yet it's not at the forefront, because, as you mentioned earlier, there are distractions. And those distractions, if we let them into our everyday world, our moment-to-moment, living in the moment world, it can be erased, and it cannot be present. And I think our goal in life is to say, you know, when are we still? And when we are still, are we in the moment of this energy? The sun has energy, yes, but we're emitting it as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when did you first recognize this energy field, and how did you explain it to yourself?
It was actually at the time of my diagnosis, and a little prior to that moment. Just seeing this tiny little dimple where the breast cancer was. And as soon as I saw it, I had this electricity come over me it captivated my entire body. And there was a very focused, driven, electric moment that said to me, you have to do something about this. Can I explain it in voice? No, I can't. It wasn't a word. It wasn't people talking to me. But there was this electric direction saying, this has to go now, this has to go now. And it was so powerful that I couldn't let that field go until after it was with me throughout my surgery, which was a month later. my thought at the time was, well, why won't this go away? And I think it's because I was so focused on this lump in my breast that I had to work out keeping the world outside of me and locking into an inner chamber that allowed this energy field to direct me. And it directed me in the direction to address the breast cancer and to get past it. Because since that time, I haven't really felt the same energy field. I only feel it at varying degrees, but not at the same power that it was at that time. Mm-hmm. It was palpable.
Yeah, I'm just
Do you think that was, I'd like to interrupt a second. Go ahead.
Sorry,
I'm gonna respectfully yield to you, Nina.
Okay. Now, I want to ask her a question because when she had that feeling, sometimes we have when we see, say we're driving, and all of a sudden the car in front of us stops very fast. We have to stop. I have had that tingling feeling of, and it's like a nervous shock that you don't anticipate, you don't know it's coming, and you don't know when it goes, but it comes along, and it's like a fear. And I was thinking when you were talking, what you were talking about was a fear that sort of locked away in you, that you figured, is it really this, or is it, what is this? And you knew it was something, and that fear came over you. Is that what it felt like?
Well, because I've had so much fear in my life, it didn't have that fear recognition that I could say I was scared. It was a level that was catapulted in at the moment that I saw the dimple.
Suddenly the reaction.
Yes, the whole world stopped, and it was as though the energy field had a voice directing me. But I didn't know, because I wasn't familiar with what that voice sounds like. It's like a foreign language almost, if you will. It allowed me to focus on something that could have given me a lot of fear, but was more of a direction. So I believe that the energy field that we have around us is supposed to give us direction.
Yes, I think that that energy field and that vibration is our inner knowing and our inner being, and it's tapping us on the shoulder at all times. And if we're not paying attention, then it manifests in something physical. And finally, it gets our attention, and the universe sits our ass down and insists that we pay attention. And I think that it does come across in vibration form, and I think that is what happened, and thank God it did, because it clearly saved your life, which is wonderful.
Thank you. It just wouldn't let me go. It wouldn't let me go. That was, to me, the turning point in this moment. And what was even more powerful is that it, and I refer to it as it, just for lack of a better term, it told me I would be okay.
I'm sure.
Amazing. Wow.
I felt it the other way around. Just as I felt it the other way around, Amy. I felt it. You said that you felt the energy and it allowed you to focus.
Yeah.
I felt it the other way around when I've been really focused, and this is in some of the practice, the breathing practice or the yoga practice I do. When I've been really focused, then I felt the energy. It's created it that way, and I felt that the feelings in my body, and it's almost like it goes in waves. Mm-hmm. And you feel it up your arms and your back, and it's really quite. It's a very empowering. It's a very empowering feeling to have. So, I felt it. It works both ways.
Because
it's wonderful.
And Helen, your practice allows you to be still enough to focus. And I think for a lot of people, they're not still enough, so they don't have the focus. So it's not until we get something really big happening that gets our attention that we're able to stop in our tracks and gain the focus.
I think that's it, I think that's it.
But yoga is a great tool for focus.
Yeah, and it's very energetic yoga in that respect, and it's actually when it stops and you allow all the energy just to flow throughout your body, and you become very focused in sort of the meditation part of it, that you really feel it. But you're absolutely right, Jamie. I think we're just so tied up in our thoughts that just blocks everything. It's like a big barrier. We're thinking all the time, and we don't allow ourselves the grace I think, to feel the energy that's there.
But Helen, let me ask you a question. Why, for me, did it feel as though it was a language? It was a language talking to me, because I was able to understand it, yet I couldn't put it in words that we know.
It's that knowing, isn't it? And I think it's almost like, the way I understand it is that we become in contact with our inner being and our inner knowing. It's like what you said, Jamie. And that doesn't have a language. That doesn't speak Chinese or French or English or whatever.
It's feeling.
Just a feeling inside.
It translates, feeling translates vibration.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get my arms around this for a second, because the ladies are taking off at 100 miles an hour. So I'm just attempting to put my arms around it in a way that this may be received and understood by our viewers. So, is this something that's beyond our five senses? Because everybody depends. We are so have learned in our lives that all there is for most of us is our five senses. But I actually believe that there is more than just the five senses. So
this is a sixth sense,
okay,
but we all have it.
Okay.
And it's a matter of understanding that we have to choose to access it, because we all have it and we all have access to it, but we have to choose to want to access it. And sometimes without that conscious choice, it's there, but it doesn't reach us. So then we create this little opening, or we visually experience something happening in our body, and that creates the opening that allows us to access that sixth sense.
Okay, does anybody have an example, a personal example, when you have actually felt it, but you have chosen not to listen to it, and you ended up doing something else, and what happened?
I think that happens every day, Steve. I think just, working, being at work or being in situations where we know that we should be someplace else or doing something else, but yet the routine of the day keeps us where we are, and not following that sixth sense, or taking, my daughter, when we take the train sometimes to work, she'll say, Mom, we got to get on the E train. I know that's going to be better. And in fact, it's the best choice, because she goes on that instantaneous.
It's instinct. It's just instinct.
Instinct.
And children have access to that. They're so pure in their vibration that they intuitively are tuned into their knowing. And it's always us parents that aren't listening to them and are in some ways encouraging them to move away from that. When in fact, if we always listen to our children, we would be right, because they do have that access to a pure vibration.
So what is that? For example, Jamie, does that have to do with the fact that we adults kind of think that we know the answers?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the ego. I mean, if you're wanting to know why people don't have access, I believe it's a lot of ego related. And when you kindly ask your ego to step down, you instantly have access to that knowledge, that greater knowledge, that bigger knowledge. But the problem is that people can't explain it. And so because they can't explain it, they don't believe it. But I've never heard anybody say in all my years, I shouldn't have listened to myself. And yet I hear people all the time say, I should have listened to myself.
That's a great point.
So they hear their inner knowing, but they don't do anything about it.
They don't trust it. They don't trust it.
They don't trust it.
And
okay, so
we have to have proof for these things. The whole world is geared around having proof. It's not real unless you can prove it scientifically. And so we can't prove this. And we don't follow it. We don't follow it personally. So, for example, we don't follow our intuition. And as long as we don't do that, we'll never actually know.
Okay, and would you say, Helen, that that's because most people are not living in the present moment, which is what we attempting to teach our viewers right now. Because I'm connected to myself, and I'm connected to all four of you. even when all of you are talking at the same time, I am still connected.
I think, Steve, that is very true. We're not living in the present. What's happening is we've learned to live through fear. And everything that we experience, we see through the lens of fear, and that it's going to be difficult, that life is a struggle, and I think that's where we're coming from. And so, yes, we've unlearned what we knew intuitively when we were born.
But the good news is that it's easy to get back there. It's very easy to get back there. It only takes a moment, and your inner being never gives up on you. It's there 24/7. It's your guiding light. It doesn't matter if you don't hear it now or tomorrow or in a year. It never turns its back on you. And that's so important for the viewers to know.
Yeah. All you've got to do is take a step and just say, trust yourself. Allow yourself to trust. And just allow it to happen. That's what it takes.
Yeah, you can also take a test on yourself, which I've done a few times. I'm a big tester on different things I do. I like to test, like I'm a shy person. People don't think I'm shy. So to avoid that, I put myself in a place where I'm going to be shy and I'm going to overcome it. So we do overcome it and everything's fine. Now also when I'm driving or something, I'm going somewhere, I'm going to take a left turn or a right turn. Now I'm saying to myself that I really should go, to the left, and I'm dragging to the right, and I'm thinking to myself, and I test this, what are my consequences? Well, let's just see. I'm going to go to the right, being very conscious of going to the right, and thinking to myself, what would have happened if I'd gone there? And it's a test you can give yourself, and I think you were saying, Helen, we always live in fear. I have to disagree with that. I don't think we always live in fear. I think we've got a little bit more to ourselves than that, but I think we always think that, but we're not really in fear at all. We're just unclear of where we're going or what we want, and I think to test yourself to see and make that step. You do it in yoga. You relax yourself in yoga, right? And you open yourself up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's about we're conditioned by our thoughts. We live through our thoughts, and so many of our thoughts are around not being able. They always start with a negative. I can't. It's not possible. They shouldn't. It's blame. It's complain. And that's how we get into the negative energy. And since we're talking about energy, that actually then directs our lives. And in that state, in that negative state, it's impossible to connect with the inner you.
Do anything. Yeah, it's impossible.
With your knowing.
Because you've got no challenge there.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking along that line, Helen, that we actually can sense the energy fields around other people and will bring us into their field or not, depending on what vibrations they're sending out, be it positive or negative. And I think that's also something we should consider in this discussion, that it's not just the energy fields that help us and guide us and lead us, but it's also those of others. Should you be around a certain type of person? Or I believe that my own children should be aware that when they sense something, to really be attuned to that, because it's telling you something for a reason.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's about choosing, and it's about allowing the energy that is not in tune with your energy to just go over you. It's almost like building a cocoon around yourself where you're not affected by it, because it is really easy to be sucked in by the negative energy around you. But when you're aware of it,
absolutely,
you can protect yourself from it.
Okay, so can we agree on something, that there's only two places we can be at any given time? We are either connected to ourselves and connected to this energy we're speaking about and connected to others, or we're disconnected. Can we agree on that?
Yes, I think that there are levels of connection and disconnection. And I don't think it's black or white. I think that we can be connected to ourselves, and we can choose to be distracted. And there is a difference, because that doesn't mean we're disconnected. It means that we're choosing to be connected to ourselves and allowing ourselves to be distracted.
Okay, so I'm going to respectfully disagree with you for a second.
Okay,
may I?
that's good.
All right,
Yeah,
so
of course,
so I used to buy into this choice thing. Okay, that we have a choice, and I kind of changed my mind about that. And where I am today is there's only one choice, and that one choice is to choose me. Is to choose me to be connected to me and to others, and to be connected to my love and connected to others' love. That's the only choice there is. If I can't make that choice, the rest of it is an automatic pilot, and it doesn't really matter.
Okay, and that's a choice that you've made for yourself.
No, for me, it doesn't occur as a choice, is what I'm trying to explain. It occurs for me. It occurs for me that I probably have less than 1.2 seconds at any given time to choose me and choose my connection to me and to others. If I don't choose that, like consciously I don't choose it, I'm an automatic pilot.
Well, you have practiced yourself into that sensitivity, which is a wonderful thing. But I think for a lot of people, and our viewers included, it's important for them to understand that moment by moment they can choose. And one moment they can choose to be connected, and one moment they can choose to be disconnected. And the value in that is the choice. Because I think when we understand that we're in control of the connection or disconnection, then we take responsibility. And that is the important part of this.
Yes, I agree. But what I would like to get the viewers to get and understand is that we were talking about earlier kids and how pure they are and how connected they are and how they can sense this energy that Amy and everybody else has been talking about today. When we are an automatic pilot, okay, I feel that the way we behave moment to moment is based on what we can access in our memory, and that's why people have all these opinions, judgments, because it's coming from our stored memory that this situation has already happened before, and I know the answer. And that's not accurate. This is a new situation, and the answer is not what happened before. It's a new answer. But we're only going to get the new answer if we are open and connected. If we're not connected, we're going to get the answer that we have already, quote unquote, experienced before.
Okay, but what you're talking about is ego. Because you cannot be connected to ourselves when we have engaged our ego. That's just all there is to it.
Say that again. That makes a lot of sense.
It's true. And when you're connected to yourself, your ego is, you've asked your ego consciously or unconsciously to stand down.
Yes.
And when you are engaged with your ego, there's no possible way you can be connected to yourself. It just doesn't happen. So that's really good for us all to know that when we are disconnected from ourselves, it is our ego that's running the show.
Ego
That's
taking
right.
over. Yeah.
Completely taking over. And our ego, all our ego is just a defense mechanism. And so once we sense that, we're able to step back and say, okay, I can ask my ego to stand down, and I can get back into that feeling place. And there's a difference between thinking and feeling. And when we're feeling, we're connected. And when we're thinking, it's very possible that we are engaging our ego. And it's a choice. There are times when our ego just kicks in automatically. And that's the beauty of it. It's a defense mechanism that we can count on to kick in when we need it. But we don't need it, ever, really. We really don't.
Yeah.
So, and to buy into that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, there are times, we need to think. There are times when we need to think, but it's about actually knowing the difference between ego and thinking in order to make a conscious decision.
Yes.
And thinking just because you're thinking on automatic pilot, just because that's what you're doing all the time and you're not particularly aware of it. There's a difference between those two.
We don't make a conscious decision when we're using our ego. Those two things don't even work together.
Yeah.
It's a different language altogether.
So let me ask a question here. I want to ask a question because I've been dealing with a lot of the younger generation with obesity and this epidemic we've got out there. And a lot of it, they say, because of the parents, because of this, because of that. So there's always somebody to blame and something to do. And obviously with children, we are the ones that are feeding them and helping them. But for the adults, how do they get over this feeling of eating and being overweight and sort of obviously their feelings, everything has gone berserk and they give up. They're like hopeless. They don't have the ego, do they?
No, but they're not connected either. You know, their ego is deflated. They're, you know, so how can they hook themselves up? The question is, how can they hook themselves up back with themselves? Because it's that mind-body connection that allows them to make the choices, that allows them to develop whatever that healthy ego is once again down the road. So,
and, you know, it's like the eating is giving them something that they're lacking. When you eat like that, there's always an underlying emotional reason for it. You know, and
it's nothing to do with the food. It's nothing to do with the food.
Well, yes, you know, it depends. If you're going to eat junk food all day as opposed to healthy food all day, and there were no other issues involved, then yes, that would be worse for you. But you know, I think it goes even deeper than that. And I noticed it when I'm traveling around that there's this need for sweet. You know,
okay. So hang on for a second. Hang on for a second. So let me just put a different spin on this again. So I believe that when we're dealing with parents who are overweight, they are not connected to themselves, because if they were, they would have done something about it a long time ago.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and we can dance around this all we want, but the truth is. And I know this from my own self, because guess what? Yours truly just got to the point, finally, that now I play tennis 3 times a week and I bike 2 hours every day. Awesome. Now, what it took me to get here? My entire life. But I'm finally here, and I'm doing it because...
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you are out, because as we were talking about this, I was thinking about running, and I run about 5 days a week. And when I'm running and there are other people on the track with me, I always think to myself, wow, no one's angry. No one has this energy around them that's negative. It's like we're all in this together. So I want to ask you, Steve, when you're out there biking, what does your energy feel like, besides the energy of being tired at the end of your
I actually don't have I don't have the energy of being tired. I bike 10 miles, and my experience, I actually go to a lake, which is about almost 4 miles, and I go around the lake, and I get to see lots of people on the road, and they smile at me. They say hi to me, because there are a lot of people. I kind of go at the same time these days, and I get to see the same people almost every day. And some of them say hi to me. I say hi to them. It's like an amazing. I mean, I have a connection to these people, and I don't even know them, and I never even talk to them. But I have a connection with them because what I'm feeling is that these people are out there for the same reason I'm out there, and the reason I'm out there is because I want to be healthy, and I want to live for a long time, and I want to take care of myself. And based on the things that I'm up to right now and what I'm doing, it isn't acceptable to my higher self or to my spirit to be overweight. It doesn't work. It doesn't allow me to be in that conversation anymore.
But you're also doing it, Steve, because of where you want to go and how you want to look on your presence. So you're being very self-conscious and want to get yourself completely in order, in body, physically, mentally, and you find this is the way to do it so you can present yourself, and then you feel really good going out there, and then you've got that incredible self-esteem.
But what if, Steve, it's the other way around? What if it's not because you're saying, I want to be healthy, I'm becoming more conscious now, and so I'm going to do what I need for my body. What if it's because you're becoming conscious, that your body is reacting differently? Your body is saying to you, I don't want any of this junk food anymore, or, you know, I want to be active. Maybe it's the other way around.
Well, I don't know if it's another way around, but it's like I am being directed. I am being directed to do this. I don't know where.
You're being inner directed.
I don't know. I don't know for sure where from. But it's
your inner being.
But it's an inside. But it's an inside job. It's not coming from the outside. It's coming from within.
That's exactly it. And this is the point, in a way, is that when we become more connected, when we actually go inside rather than looking for our fixes from the outside, then the body will regulate itself.
Well, the more important thing is when we look inside, we get the message from inside, because when we get the message from outside, it doesn't mean anything. If anything, it makes us angry. It makes us defiant. It makes us say, screw you. Who do you think you are to judge me? But when it's from the inside, and we can hear that inner
It's a good thing we're in cable. Yeah.
No, then we can feel empowered.
True,
We
though.
can be inner directed, and whatever those results are, they're our own. It's because of what we're choosing to do for ourselves, not to please anyone else. And this is a very difficult, complicated society to please. Can I tell you? I mean, you could be almost perfect, and still, people in this society would find fault with you. So it is definitely an inner job. Definitely.
And my
good
son
for
is
you.
just passing me a note saying when he plays basketball, nothing else
Amy, you're
matters.
in the-
And he's 15. So I think he understands that, you know, what I think Steve is doing and what my son is doing when we're running and we're doing things, we're connecting to the energy fields of those around us who are making us feel good. Forget
And
me.
the opposite
Ego
happens,
is not
Amy.
involved.
Amy,
Yeah.
you teach media and journalism, which is that's putting yourself on the line out there. So you're absolutely 100% on the line there. And you can even have an eyebrow that's a little higher than the other one. They'll criticize it. So they criticize you out there. And how do these students? I mean, it's tough for them to sort of go out there and, you know, be themselves, who they are, and bring out what they need to do.
Well, my thought with them is to impress upon them that people are important. I don't care if this is a homeless person you're interviewing or the president of the United States you're interviewing. Each person is as important as the one you left behind. And if you can keep that kernel of truth, then you start to define the person as being who you are and who they are. Because we really are in this flower patch of all different types of flowers. And you can't not appreciate the person next to you because of some preconceived notion that you've had from childhood. So the beauty of the journalism and the teaching of it is that you can really mold students to understand the world through so many different lenses by looking at everybody's story, that this is not just one story. When I was diagnosed, and I went through this whole year with my students, from having no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, going to work every day and showing them, look at this metamorphosis that we're all getting together by grace, really. And how they respond to it, I think will stay with them forever. I think it was a lesson for myself, certainly, but a lesson for them as well, that teachers are not, we're not perfect, but we're examples, and we should use those examples in our instruction.
Yeah. But you had the opportunity to go and hide yourself and to disappear and not go to work and not go to school and not do this, but you actually chose for this not to get you down mentally for yourself. You actually chose to go out there and overcome, which was a fear, which was very dramatic, but you overcame it.
I did, and I believe that I would be disingenuous if I told my students that I'm doing something, that I should be doing something, or they should be doing something, but yet I can't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's as though I'm the teacher, and I'm teaching them how to go out and interview and ask questions, ask the right questions, and reveal yourself, and then I can't reveal myself. And I have an example of how I had in myself, I had to reveal myself because I was wearing wigs up until, I want to say, my chemo ended in October, and I was wearing wigs up until that time. And then my hair started to grow in a little bit. And the students were like, Ms. Boland, why are you wearing wigs? And I couldn't get rid of that piece. That was the one piece that I couldn't take off. And then we had a seminar, and I said to them, you know what? I took the wig off right in front of them. And they said, Ms. Boland, thank you. They wanted it off. And I have not put the wig on again. It was me hiding. It was me hiding myself and who I really am. And those students taught me that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Back to the younger generation of not being inhibited. The younger generation aren't inhibited by all this stuff because they haven't gone through it yet. So they don't see what we see.
Oh, that's true.
They just see the clear picture. Yeah, they just saw the clear picture. They just saw a clear picture of why are you wearing a wig? We love you how you are. And what difference does it make?
Now, isn't it interesting that
so getting older?
Isn't it interesting that we think that people out there won't be able to handle things, and I always, these days I think, as long as we tell the truth, because what you were sharing it really has to do with telling the truth. As long as because most of the time, the reason why people don't tell the truth, well, maybe not most of the time, but one of the biggest reasons they don't tell the truth is because they don't think you can handle it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's accurate. I think people are resilient in terms of handling whatever it is that you're going to throw at them, especially if it's the truth. So
that word, yeah.
I'm actually blown away by you, Amy, because this show is about our ability to be real and to be able to share ourselves. And I feel that you've done more than that, because you've actually filmed your entire story about your cancer and you put it out there to the world to see. So I wanted to acknowledge you.
Thank you.
For I mean, it's like you have to be like fearless to be able to do that. And I think that makes a huge difference for the world. So if you could say just a little bit about how that came about, I think that would be awesome for our viewers.
After the diagnosis, I have, since I was in the media years ago, a friend of mine, Tyler, asked if she could follow my story. And she specifically said, if you don't want to do this, please, we can stop it at any time. And I thanked her because she's an anchor at the local TV station here in New York, back in New York. And I couldn't believe she asked me, because I needed a vehicle to share my story, because it was everybody's story. And she, again, I call it energy, because we connected maybe some 20 years ago, that we reconnected 20 years later. And having her ask me was an honor, because so many people don't get a chance to share their stories. Mm-hmm. And as a journalist, you have to tell not only the truth, but if you are going through something that we're reporting on, you owe it to your viewers, you owe it to people, the public who you represent, to share your story. And I saw no reason. I wanted them to see everything, from what chemo is like to what breast reconstruction is like. I wanted the world to know everything, because how else will we learn about this? How else will we learn about this dreadful disease if we don't show it in the manner in which we use, media? That's how the message gets out. And the fact that it's now online, it's on forever.
Yes. I think mentally you've helped a tremendous amount of women out there for not being so scared and not being so nervous or so worried, because I watched the whole video, and you went through it like a breeze. I mean, we know that you had moments in there, but you made it look so sort of, this is how it is, and this is real, and this is what's happening. And otherwise, don't be so frightened out there, and sort of address yourself with it. And I think that's what you're giving women out there, to address their inner selves, of not to be so frightened, not to be so scared, and they can get through it. And I think that's an amazing message out there.
But that's about being present, isn't it, Amy? Being present to the moment and everything that's happening. And when you're present, you're basically not living it from the past, things you've been told, or things you're feeling guilty about. Oh, if I hadn't done this, this wouldn't have happened, and so on. And you're not projecting it to the future either. You're not saying, oh, well, maybe this will happen, or maybe that won't happen, or whatever. You're actually very much in the present. And that's the gift. That's the gift that even in these really difficult, challenging, life-threatening situations, we can be present.
But also she was trusting all the people around her. I mean, you were trusting all the doctors, you were trusting the nurses, you were literally trusting everybody, and you put your trust in them.
And what they had to tell me, I was ready to hear. I was ready to hear whatever it was, and I wanted the cameras to pick it up, because the reaction is the reality. The reaction you have is the reality of the situation. Yeah. So be it devastation, or as a reporter, we do this. We have to show the real story. So at times I felt like Amy, are you reporting your own story or are you living your own story? And I toiled with that. And
You were doing both. You did both.
You were multitasking, Amy.
You did both. You did your story, and they got their story. So you did both. You were, and you weren't worried. You weren't You were totally fearless, but you didn't worry about anything. It was just amazing. How did you get there?
Tell us a little bit about how your family felt about this. I would like to know.
Oh gosh, my family, my children and my husband first. They were right there from the beginning. And I think if they had not been so strong and supportive, I don't think I would have been able to be so stoic and able to handle it. I can't take credit for that because the world, my world, and my world around me agreed that, yes, we will get through it. And my husband said at some point during the interviews that Amy gets these challenges and then she gets through them. And having him say that gave me so much strength that it didn't come from me. It came from him and my children being so supportive as we journeyed together through this. You can't do it alone. And I could never sit here and say, oh yeah, I was so strong and I got through this. I had my parents and my father, may he rest in peace, but I had my mother, my sisters. I had people at my school who gave food because they knew that I couldn't cook for the 6 weeks that I was going through reconstruction and rehabilitation. Everybody chipped in. And I felt like I was being lifted up by this. Going back to our earlier discussion about energy, I felt like I was being lifted up by the energy of others. And if we could just do that for others, that was what I learned through this breast cancer, is that other people are important. And we have to be able to take our energy and ourselves and lift them up the way people lifted me up. It wasn't me. It was me a teeny bit, but the world around me the most.
But you were allowing them to do that. You allowed them to come in there. And you opened your whole self up and allowed them to come in, and you trusted them. And I think it was a big thing of trust with you.
And also, being a mom, you want to show your children that you are going to be met with challenges throughout your entire life. And how are you going to respond to those challenges when they are presented to you? Will you run away in fear, or will you face it, or will you climb it, will you go through it? All of these things that we want to teach our kids in so many ways. I was actually experiencing it. So it was an opportunity. And my mom says, "You're such an opportunity." But it really was an opportunity for them to learn.
Yeah, but you still did it. You still did it. Rock is cheap, I always say, but you actually did it. You actually followed through and actually did it.
What a way to get an opportunity out there. Well, it's life-changing.
Yeah, well, what's coming to me, Amy, is that you know how we call people a hero because they did something for somebody else. Out there in the world, but I think there should be an award, and you should certainly win it right now, to be your own hero, because I think that's what you are for your own self.
I just wanted to mention one thing about Amy, because Amy might not mention this, but Amy used to walk before she had the breast cancer. She used to walk for cancer. She did it for many, many years, and this was long before she ever knew this was going to happen to her. And then when this all happened to her, she's now on the other side. And how was that feeling that now you had no idea this was going to happen at the beginning of the years that you did this walk? You were giving to these women and these people, and then you were on the other side.
That's a great question, Ninan, for so many reasons, because it took me back to the 6 years of walking for the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And I insisted that my family, that my husband, my kids walk in this race because I thought it was so important that we support people with breast cancer, both men and women who suffer from it, but never in a million years, or maybe somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought I could be at risk for having it. But you think optimistically. And the fact that my kids, there was one year I remember my daughter or son saying to me, "Mom, you're not going to get that, are you?" And I would say, "Why did you ask? Why would you ask that?" But that left, and then the following years, just walking, gave them the foundation of what was to come, which we don't know because we can't see into the future. But the future was that I was going to be on that other side, and it wasn't as daunting as the fear of it. Being on the other side and saying, yes, I'm a breast cancer survivor, I thought I would have been totally out of my normal self of reality and just crumbled. And it wasn't that way at all. I feel like a new person. I feel like a person who has a purpose that never could define before, but is now more directed. And thank God. Thank God. And thank God I'm alive to see my children learn from this. And I learned so much from it. But being on that side where the women and men are running and walking now, I hold my hands up in victory and say, yes, we can do this. We can do this.
Amy, I was hearing something that I wanted to check out with you. When your child was saying or asking you a question about, hey, Mom, are you going to get this? And then your response was, why are you even asking me that question?
Yeah,
is it possible that your child actually intuitively and actually we're talking about this energy that there was a knowing that this was coming?
It's amazing you picked up on that, Steve, because I can remember that moment like it was yesterday, and this was probably
I immediately
3 or 4 years
my
ago.
body was buzzing when you mentioned that, because I said, okay, so here's the perfect example. Your kid knew it. Your kid knew it, and
yes.
that's
Did you
amazing.
ever ask him did you ever ask him if he really knew it? Did you ever ask him that question, or have you ever asked him that question? So what made him ask you that, or have you ever gone there with him?
I never went back there, Nina, and I think it's because I didn't want them to be fearful.
Right.
I didn't want them. I was taking away their ability to be human and who they are supposed to be, and not who I want them to be.
Because you risk actually, you risk actually feeling that you're judging them, and somehow it's wrong to say things. I can understand that, because it was something that came from your child, just came from
innocently.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, absolutely.
But when I
and
did
that's,
tell them, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's what happens over the years. And when we do react, particularly as children, intuitively from that space, and we maybe get a criticism or a judgment from it, then we don't do it again. We learn to actually put the lid on a lot of that stuff, and we're not spontaneous, we're not expressive. And that's how over the years, I think, and I've experienced myself, we actually lose that ability. And we have to regain it. We have to trust ourselves. And I think, Ninon, you talked a lot about trust and trusting other people. And I think the person, Amy, that you trusted you.
She trusted her,
It
she
wasn't-
trusted his doctors,
Yeah.
But
You trusted you, and that's what allows you to do what you do.
something came to the forefront at that moment of seeing that dimple, and this will take us back to the full circle that we're under right now. But seeing that dimple and knowing you have to do something, and trusting in that, and not taking credit for it, which brings us back to the ego, separating the ego from the moment and realizing that we do have this energy and we do have this power within ourselves at that moment, and being able to tap into it and tap into other energy.
We have it every moment. It's there every
Yes.
single
I
moment.
get
Don't wait
goosebumps
for a
thinking about it.
life-threatening illness to hear your inner being. Your inner being is available to guide you every single moment. And I really believe that our children are the key to showing us the way. So, if your child has anything to say, listen, because our children know. They know so much more than we know. It is unbelievable because they feel it all.
Okay, so
God is watching. She's
I have a really difficult question for Amy.
Oh,
All right, so
Okay, I'm ready.
brace yourself. Okay, so
Okay.
So you had this experience with cancer and you beat it. A lot of people don't get to beat it. My question to you is, how do you think, or are you being responsible and accountable for getting that cancer?
That's a great question.
I know.
People have asked people have asked me, Steve, oh, so do you eat well? Are you changing your diet? Oh, there's so many, I have had over the past year, so many people kind of intruding into what they think how I got it. And breast cancer is one of those diseases that you don't know. You really don't know. I think inside, some of me says that it could be the amount of stress that I've taken on in my life and maybe not directing it. I wasn't running for the past 2 or 3 years. But what's more important, and this is for your viewers and for people who will be going through this or have gone through it, is that it's not the diagnosis, it's the aftermath. It's the fact that my son's phone is going off. Excuse me.
That's okay. This is a reality show. It's fine. Just allow to happen whatever is going to happen. It's fine.
It's not being a victim, basically. It's not being a victim from the post. What did I do earlier in my life that could have contributed to this? 1,000 things could have contributed to it. Yes. And that is where we reach that pinnacle and where we no longer have to worry anymore. We no longer have to worry because we're in the moment that we are diagnosed. That diagnosis is now is no longer important because we've reached that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, what I wanted to communicate with the viewers is that we have the power, and you're a perfect example of this. We have the power to make ourselves ill, and we also have the power to actually fix it if we want to.
Yes, that's right.
So what about
dis-ease? And if you talk about vibration, it is unbelievable what our vibration has to do with our dis-ease or our wellness. And I truly believe that we create dis-ease with our thoughts and that we create wellness with our thoughts. And our thoughts translate into vibration. And we can either nurture and we can support ourselves, or we can literally destroy ourselves with our thoughts. And so if anything, I think we have the responsibility to be mindful and to keep our vibration high so that we can obtain optimal wellness in our bodies. That's
But we do know of the people who have positive attitudes and they're at stage 4 and they're still running in marathons. I don't want to leave them out because there are times when I think to myself, you know, Amy, you had stage 2 breast cancer. And, you know, you had a pretty good diagnosis. Anything can happen in the future, which is not important. But I do think about those who are at what we call maybe the final stages. And I would love to hear from them to see if their lives are still emoting or emitting the positive energies, or are they regressing? Because my situation could have been different. And I wonder how I would have been if I received a diagnosis of a stage 4, 6 months to live diagnosis. Would I be this positive and confident? I grapple with that a lot. And whether I should or not leads, you know, I don't know, makes me wonder if I'm just being hard on myself. But I feel a lot for those people whose battle is far more difficult than mine.
I think that's probably because of the reoccurrence of cancer, because you know, it goes and then you have the 5 years and you have all these different things, and I think it's probably always in the back of your mind of whoever has cancer. It's in the back of their mind of, you know, is it going? How am I today? And is it going? You try to, I would imagine, I don't know, just thinking that you would try to sort of make yourself, your body, I would think, try to make it at ease at all times so that you don't take on any stress, and you put into your mind the peacefulness of life, because you know that anything can grab hold of your body, which it will. Aggravation, you know, bring you down. Anything like that can bring you down. So do you find yourself in the position of trying to, which probably your family helped you as well, putting yourself into an easier position, or are you still the same? You're probably still the same.
I'm I'm the same in that I like to keep busy and I'd like to get a lot of things done. The opportunities that have happened as a result post breast cancer have been phenomenal, and I think it's because of the way I don't know how to explain it in words, but the aura that has come out of the breast cancer, because it's humbling, it's a very humble experience. I think people attract to that because it's a very natural, calm way of being that is not threatening to people. So I'm bringing people into my life who are from that same field of positivity, and they appreciate, and I appreciate them. So I've changed in some ways,
Amy,
but I'm still keeping as busy as possible. Yes,
Amy, I'm
Steve.
sorry to cut you off, but we are actually at the end of our show, and this is all the time that we have for today. And many thanks to our guest Amy Boland, as well as the entire cast and the crew behind the glass. And of course, we thank all of our viewers for being tuned into this and connected to us. And remember to always vote on our shows. The more you vote on our shows, the more it's played on Channel 56, 57, and Channel 219. And we want to invite you to interact with us on our website at livingconsciously.tv, as well as engage with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/livingconsciouslytv. This has been a fantastic show. I am touched, moved, and inspired by your story. Amy, thank you very much, and I love you all, and see you guys next Saturday, same time, same place. Thank you all.